Thank you very much, leadership. Thank you, communication. You are proactive. The Commission calls that maternity leave is to be shared, that if the maternity leave is to be shared with the father should get the minimum and not be entitled to the 4 months and 10 days allocated to mothers. We should, as labor, negotiate at workplace so that mothers have 6 months and the partner takes the minimal part of the maternity leave. We also recommend that some collective agreements are not complying with the current legislation. And as labor, we must be on guard to make sure that we improve and apply the correct legislation in our workplaces and our shop floors. If the legislation is then implemented, comrades, the Commission then recommends that South Africa should adopt the maternity practices of Sweden, where maternity leave is a year. It is the first 6 months is for the mother, and the next 6 months can be shared between the mother and the father as per agreement of the couple. The Commission supports the slogan of SACAO, which says, workers are parents too, clearly stating that workers must be able to balance work and family life. The Commission calls for the provision of childcare facilities at workplaces. The Commission calls for the ensuring and strengthening of bargaining council units and policies to protect the rights of women. The Commission recommends, the Commission supports the fact that if parents cannot agree on the term of sharing of the leave, the mother's rights will be considered over that of the father. I think that is an amendment to the actual law, comrades, that once you and your husband are not agreeing on he wants to claim the 4 months, now 4 months, you gave birth. Now we agree with the amendment, with the amendment that says the mother's rights will supersede that of the father. We also recommend that unions should capacitate members on the rights of women and the new maternity legislation on the rights of a mother. Because we understand, comrades, in some sectors we have our women who are not so updated on the new legislations. And the husband comes home and says, there's a court order. I'm going to take this 4 months from you. And if our women are not educated on their rights with regards to this new law, they might find themselves in a lower position. Under collective bargaining, the Commission notes there is a huge underrepresentation of women in bargaining councils and negotiating platforms. These chambers are dominated by men, resulting in them failing to advocate the demands of women, which is currently the situation where we find ourselves, leaders. There is a great need for women to be developed, empowered with bargaining and negotiating skills. The lack of recognition of qualifications in some sectors leading to the qualified employees being overlooked for positions. The Commission also notes under the gender pay gap. South Africa's gender pay gap remains large and persistent. National data and UN Women analysis show that women earn less than men, even after accounting for education and occupation. So even if you can upgrade yourself, leaders, you go to school, uyasifundisa wena with your money. But because you are a woman, you will always be overlooked. The other hindering factor is segregation, care burdens, and underrepresentation of women in senior positions. So if it's a bunch of men sitting there, bayakhuphulana bone bayi-one, because they are sitting there at the top and they are the ones making the decisions. We also note that the employer often hides behind the excuse of austerity measures, forcing women to act in positions for long periods. For example, in the health sector, comrades, you see in the health sector, you have Abu CEO in hospitals that are forever acting at SAPC 1. And they are not being put into those positions. We also note that there are limited opportunities to progress in companies, even when workers upskill themselves or get more education. What are the main drivers? The Commission noted the main drivers, and the first driver is the occupational segregation. Women are centered in lower paid sectors and roles. As women, we are always occupying these lower levels. We are not up there. It's not women on top. Care responsibilities. Thus, appropriated unpaid care reduces hours, continuity, and promotion prospects for women. We know that as women, as mothers, we are caregivers. We go home, we take care of the families. We need to make sure that he's taken care of, he's clean, he has eaten. And that, at the end of the day, employer might say, "Melo uze ushayise ngo-6, wena ucabanga umntwana ubuya esikolweni ngo-2 until 5 after care yavala." So you cannot go home ngo-6 because the man doesn't have those responsibilities. He's seen as being better than you because he can stay up until 8 even because he has nothing to do at home. Glass ceiling and bias. Fewer women in senior pipelines and decision-making roles, as we have said. Policy and transparency gaps. Weak enforcement of pay equity measures and limited firm-level pay data. There is no gender pay gap. It is not clear. It is not honest, and it is not projected where we as women can see that in my company as Urashi, how much do the men earn and how much do the women earn, and what is the gender pay gap thereof. Therefore, the Commission then recommends we need more women representation in bargaining councils and at the negotiating table. This must be regulated through policy. Formation of skills committees at the workplace. We demand the recognition of qualifications in all sectors. We want more women must be promoted to senior positions. Mandate pay transparency and regular gender pay audits in all sectors, public and sectoral. We want to see the transparency, comrades, as we said. Ukuthi abo baba la, if siyathunga sonke sisebenza ka textile, how much is the man earning and how much is the woman earning, so that we can see transparently what the gender pay gap then there is. The Commission recommends strengthening paid parental leave and childcare support to reduce career interruptions for women. Set targets for sponsorships for women into senior roles. Remove biased hiring and promotion practices. And by biased hiring and promotion practices, comrades, we are simply talking about leguti. If you want the job, you come to room number 296 and we'll talk about it there. Because that is what has been done in companies, comrades. If you want the promotion, come to room 119 at the lakes. You will get the promotion. We must use sectoral bargaining. We must use sectoral bargaining and minimum wage floors to lift pay for female-dominated occupations. Ensure and monitor great progression takes place in all sectors. Implement a stricter policy on acting in senior positions, more campaigning for gender pay gaps, capacitate negotiators to address women's issues more effectively, women be capacitated and trained to occupy roles that were previously dominated by men. This must be legislated and closely monitored by organized labor. The end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is Commission 2? Commission 4? Okay, thank you very much, Commission 4. Any input from the commissioners?
No, thanks, Chair. We were well represented by our rapporteur, but we want to make more emphasis on the issue to say of saying why we don't want this sharing. The good thing is that in our commission we had doctors, and they also confirmed we are not unreasonable, because a woman after birth, you must go through the process of healing. It can't be just the person who did not carry something for 9 months in a womb, who is not the one goes to the ward to deliver, does not go through that process. You must share. And as a woman after birth, you know that there might be some complications, and your body also lose a bit of shape, and you have to deal with what do you call, my doctors, those stress. Yes, you have to deal with it. After that, you need time. We are saying that so that our male comrades, they must understand where we are coming from with this thing. So it's not that we want to be unreasonable, and we are not taking note that they are fathers, they need to bond with their children. But these are the reasons that has informed this. You need to breastfeed the child. And look, now we take also note that in our workplaces there are not child care facilities, and that child will still need to be breastfeeded. Those are the things. So we just want to make sure that we elaborate more, so that when the commissions now start, the plenaries start to engage on what our commission has reported on, they understand where we are coming from. Thanks very much.
Still the input from the commissioners. Cosatu.
Amanda, away too.
Before.
Thank you so much. Just to also add.
Okay,
input.
sorry, Cosatu. Samatu, sorry. There was no pot nyamkes and then.
Just for record purposes, can the president please tell us that as they don't want the sharing, so what do they replace it with? So what happens?
Can you give?
No, our proposal was that let's negotiate for extra 2 months, make it 6 months, so that we can have that 4 months, then we can have a negotiation on the 2 months, but not on the first 4 months. Because remember, we are supposed to breastfeed at least for 6 months. And yesterday, because we had about doctors there, they told us that at least a child, where you think then is a time for a child to start to bond with the father, is from 6 months. So we are proposing extra 2 months, make maternity leave 6 months, then we can talk about the sharing from the remaining 2 months.
Okay. Sorry, before you pass the mic, President. So your commission look at the maternity, not the paternity. Both. Okay, no, sure. I'm covered. Have you catch that, scribers? Okay, sure.
Thank you so much, Chair. Chair, we noted as the commission that, you see, when you have this patriarchal system coupled with a capitalist system that are infused together and they strengthen each other, because we're at the space of the work, the capital, and we have the head of patriarchy showing itself, bringing a contestation into the space of a woman who has given birth and now finds herself having to share that space of recovery and bonding with the child, with their latter partner. Why not leave that space for the woman and add another space for the paternal father, and not make them to contest for that space? We know that we live in a time of GBV, but you still want to go behind the doors of the homes where we said that's where GBV is happening silently. And you want this vulnerable woman to now negotiate with the partner, where we know that there's a gender struggle, a decision, a power of decision-making struggle in the house. And then you want to say, let those people go and decide. So we are saying, leave the woman to have their space, make it 6 months. That 10 days can be for him, or it can also be taken by the woman. The other thing that we need to add, or we need to be cognizant of, we have the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals that we have agreed upon, that were reviewed in 2015, and our aim is 2030. And one of them is health. One of them is mental well-being. If we are going to say the mother must share the 4 months, you have a risk where you don't get to breastfeed that child properly. In health, on the other side, you are saying you are advocating for breastfeeding of babies for a full 6 months. And now you still want to compromise that time of the time that is already not adequate, which is 4 months. What are you saying? You are working against your own goals that you have in health. You are working against your own goals that you have for sustainable development in our country. So we have to, as feminists, we have to remain sensitive to these issues that are brought about by patriarchy. We were looking, the decision makers in that constitutional court, who are they? Let's go and look at the biography of the same judges that were making those decisions. How much is the women representation out of those 11 judges? How far are they from the bearing age, the childbearing age? Maybe they've forgotten what it takes. They've lost touch. So that's why we always have to take these things with that big eye of feminism and strive to dismantle patriarchy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dogoten. It's 1,000 days, Dogoten. 1,000 days of exclusive breastfeeding. That's what we are advocating for now. 1,000 days. Dinosa, are you part of the commission? Were you part? Oh, sorry, ma'am. Okay, let me check, Dinosa. Were you part of the commission? Okay, I just want the commissioners first.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to add to the commission with regards to the issue of capacity building, because we have all this legislation that is protecting us. But when it comes to implementation of them, we can't, due to the fact that we're not skewed up in terms of capacitating ourselves. And here, the commission came out to say that maybe we need to put more emphasis on our affiliates to look at capacitating all those that would be part and parcel of e-bargaining councils for us to be able at least to get what we're supposed to get when it comes to maternity leave, because you can sit on a bargaining council, but if you're not capacitated, you will not understand the legislation in terms of how you should understand it. The emphasis is affiliates to put more on capacity building for the negotiators that they are sending to negotiate issues concerning workers. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the commission, NGC, meaning gender conference members, delegates. It's your time now to have an input. I've noted Dinosa, Sakau ×2, Pope Crew. Okay, Dinosa.
No, thank you, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. Chair, we hear a commission, and the point I'm coming into is that for us to make our needs to align, possibly we have to think, I like where they said we mustn't allow a patriarchy and capitalism to sway us from these issues. In this conference, Chair, where we are talking about care work, yesterday during presentations, we heard about the 5 R's, both from ministry and from ILO. So when we are dealing with these issues, Chair, possibly we have to be holistic. I'm for women, people who knows me, I'm for. But in this issue, let's consider and not also forget the issue that we want to reduce the unpaid care work. Possibly let's channel our strength to capitalists and say, let us not share. I know what I'm proposing, it's like it's the third world somewhere. But let us not fight for this small carrot with the other gender. Because I believe when I'm still healing, I want this man to make sure that the bed is made, to make sure that he cooks for me, to make sure that when I'm breastfeeding, he change napkins. So, Chair, I want us to put it in a way that we still consider our redistribution, so that I don't, because this man will also forget that there's something about care work to take care of me. So your 6 months, possibly, let's say, let the men have their own and we have ours. Because I believe that as labor, at that time, we missed the point of not having inputs. Now, these capitalists, they've made us now to fight amongst the other gender, which I still need, Chair. Thank you. I can go over and over, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. Thanks.
I understand you very well. Comrades, I'm Tandega Msibi, employed by the Department of Health. As an employee, I qualify for all the benefits. Okay? Msibi is not employed because he's my husband, so we can't share the benefits. He's employed because he is also an employee with his own benefits. So we can't be sharing. I don't know what this thing is sharing. We can't be sharing. Everybody has their own benefits. I want, before I point at Sakau, let me go with my list. I'll derail you. Sakau.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, comrades. Thank you very much, Commission, for your great work. Comrades, I just have a request on the issue of childcare facilities in the workplace. I will recommend that we add at the workplace or near the workplace. Let me make an example of my lovely union, Sakau, in a shopping center or in a mall where we have different companies that we have organized. So if Checkers doesn't have a space to open that facility in their workplace, they can look for another area in the mall to have this facility. And again, if Sakau, Edgar's, Pick and Pay and other companies where we are organized, they can come together, management and the union, identify a center where all the employers will contribute to open that center for our members. So let us make it in the workplace or near our workplaces. But it must be accessible to parents so that when I am breastfeeding, during my breaks, I can go there and breastfeed my child. Thank you, Chair.
Sakau, we had two boards. Is it two speakers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. The other area that we want to add, we were a little bit worried when the Commission said that we will have to look at the Swedish model of sharing of maternity leave. The problem that we have as Sakau is that some of our workplaces are enjoying 11 months maternity. Now, if we're going to allow legislation to be promulgated to 4 months, it means it's going to disadvantage our members that is already enjoying this benefit. So we would want to propose that we advocate strongly that we take this matter back to Netleg so that they can then look at the Swedish model, because the Swedish model is close to what Sakau currently are enjoying. And that is what we wanted to add, Chair. Thanks.
Clock to Pick and Pay for 11 months. Clock, Pick and Pay. Clock, Pick and Pay. All right. Pop Group.
Thank you very much, Chair. And let's welcome the presentation of Commission with the good recommendations that they have done. And I think it's going to be important that we kind of like explain this Swedish model for people that do not understand like me. So it was the first time that I...
Comrade, can we lower the noise? Yeah, Muzo on a flu, so we can't hear her.
So Isakau is saying that it's closer to, I think, yes, it's closer to what we want, because specifically we are saying we want a woman to heal, and there's policies that are saying women should breastfeed for 6 months. So the Swedish model is saying it's 6 months primarily for a woman, and then the other 6 months is something that we can be able to share. So it's up to us to then go back and do more research and how we can then be able to align with our national laws. And at the same time, Constitutional Court is giving Parliament 36 months, and it will be very important for this gender coordinator sitting here that within the 36 months there are going to be public participations. There are going to be inputs. We make those inputs. It's going to be very much important that our voices are heard in those public participation commissions, Chair. The other issue that I wanted to, yes, also maybe let's sponsor the recommendation that says we campaign or revitalize the campaign that talks about ratification of Convention 183, maternity protection. That says, and I think one of the recommendations was saying 6 months paid leave, yes, irrespective of your work status in South Africa. So that's something that we also need to revitalize. And as well, let's also revitalize the equal pay for work of equal value, so that we are able to then talk to the issue of gender pay gap. If we have resuscitated those two campaigns, I think we will be in the right direction. As well, maybe on the recognition of qualifications, because I heard the Commission was saying, let's recognize qualifications in all these sectors. The challenge, even if you were to recognize qualifications, because women are centered at the lowest level, you'll find that there's no recognition of their prior learning. So we must as well be in a position to say recognition of prior learning should be done at each sector, so that the experience that you have, even if you don't have post-matric qualification, but your experience that you have gained in this sector is then recognized. And that will also talk to the issue of skills committees that we are saying at each workplace. But it's a policy, that one is a HR policy. So it means we are not actually going there and monitoring as affiliates. So we should be able to monitor that there is a workplace skills committee, there's training that is happening, and the most important thing for me, it will be this recognition of prior learning, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, there was a hand at the back. The last row, yes.
Dumelang ka tlung. Ke kopa le se la nshapa bo mmehle. Empa ne ke re ha se ke ra qhala ngwana le metsi a ho hlapa ka bati. Toloka o skete. Ntho ena e buang mona. Ke kopa ho iketsa mohlala. I'm not working. My husband is working that is solely Cosatu. I will never get 6 months or whatever months, but he can get and be able to support me. If we look at it, let's find wording. We interpret it as if these people are working for one employer. If we can understand that we're giving opportunity to fathers to be able to support mothers, working or not. So let's, as we talk about it, rather let's find a way or words that will make it probably if fear go re ntate o tlile a tontsha mme a tlo mo sebeletsa in the same company, it may be difficult. But mina, if you ask me, I like it. I don't even have that husband for that matter, and I won't be pregnant. So I'm looking at bonkgono ha ba rate dingwetsi. The mama zalas, mother-in-laws don't like their daughters-in-laws, or they don't relate most of the time. And if you are working the job that is not going to be able to allow you to get a helper, it means you struggle on your own. But if this husband, where he is working at Pick and Pay, can get the same opportunity, he will be here with a child. Depending how we relate, let's not get into how our African men behave. It is happening in different countries. I have seen it in Russia. I saw it in Geneva. At least we had shop steward who had to come and visit because they are on maternity leave for 12 months. And their wives, wherever they are working, they are on maternity leave for 12 months. It's an opportunity that should not be missed. Our children will judge us. These very same men are the ones who fought for 4 months that we are earning today. Without them being pregnant, they understood that we need to rest. And they fought for us. Giving opportunity for them to enjoy the same benefits, let's support it. But find a way of capturing it. Let's not just throw it away. But I appreciate the work that is
The commission.
the commissioner. Thank you very much, Mudula Stool.
Yeah, members of the NGC, I'll appeal to you to be straight to a point. Of a male, a young male, not unmarried, working in the public sector, got this lady pregnant, they love each other, they are cohabiting. Unfortunately, during birth, the mother lost her life. The child is remaining with the father. The mother of the child is an orphan. She doesn't have parents. That is why she was cohabiting with this guy. Then this guy went to apply for a paternity leave. Public sector policy on paternity leave, Nehao, says you can only qualify for a paternity leave if you are a spouse or a life partner. And for you to be a life partner, you should have been registered with an employer as a. She has passed on. She cannot be registered. Therefore, HR said you don't qualify because she was not registered with the employer. And this guy was saying, no, but this is my child and I need to bond with my child. No one else can take the child. They refused. Then when I was challenging it, how, because it was your case, but I happened to deal with it, I said, what are you requiring for a parent that has a child through surrogacy? Angithi lena i-transitional, akunama partnership, ela your ovaries, and I give you 20,000. Then after birth, nangu mntanami ngifuna paternity leave. So whom must I register ke la? Ababuza ngithi whom must I register? Because the relationship was not life partner relationship or anything, it was transitional. And it's common, comrades. In Johannesburg, there are clinics that are selling eggs. So, I'm saying this now because you need to take it back to in negotiating tables. Because it doesn't cover amanyama situations, that even that thing of the paternity leave. We had to fight, comrades. He took his annual leave. When he came back, the child got sick. He applied for family responsibility. They said, this is not your child because he is not registered in your surname. Here, we can't even get the in-laws now to allow the child to be registered in his surname because they are not married. I'm just sharing. I wish I was in this commission. Unfortunately, I went to K-Work. Nehao. But we won the case. Nevertheless, my argument on surrogacy won the case. And he qualified for that 3 days, and they work in give us this family responsibility until the 10 days. Thank you.
Okay, mine will not be on that one, but it's based on the gender wage gap across different sectors of the economy. We dealt with this in 2022 in our commissions, and yet again this year we're coming with the same situation. So I want the commission to maybe give us the guidelines on how to move forward. What can we do to rectify this? And now there is this one elephant in the room that we find ourselves not moving. How can we advocate for this one? Employers using the non-disclosure policies in workplaces. Because definitely we know that there is a wage gap, but we don't have the facts. We don't know how many, which sectors, so that we can maybe fight for those affiliates who are still having that wage gap. If maybe there can be transparency from the employer side so that we can advocate and have campaigns on this. We resolved in 2022 that Cosatu to strengthen its campaign on equal pay for work of equal value. So we didn't have much of those campaigns, hence we are not winning on this subject. And then we also resolved in 2022 that Cosatu to escalate First March campaign on minimum wage to advocate for the pay equity. I think we also didn't manage to do that. So I just need us to put emphasis on these campaigns and make sure that we will do it, because we cannot wait for another 4 years and come back and talk about one and the same thing and not moving on. So yeah, and on the skills development, because Comrade Machidiso was saying that because of the RPLing, you know, the other, mostly women, they cannot be elevated to certain posts because of their qualification, and then they don't think that those women, they've been there on that post for many years. Why can't they recognize the prior learning so that they can give them the qualification, because they already know the job? So it comes to the skills development issue, that we must also speak to skills development issue and the sitters to come and assist so that we can be able to be merged with our males comrades, so that we can be able to close that gap. We must also have solutions, comrades. We cannot march and do campaigns and not have solutions. That was my take, comrades. Thanks.
Samatu.
Okay, my contribution is just going back to the maternity/paternity leave. As much as we shouldn't allow or disadvantage fathers in terms of bonding with their kids, I think we also need to take into consideration the fact that in South Africa, we have the highest rate of single mothers, right? And that, coupled with GBV and femicide in our community, how do we then strike a balance? What guidelines do we then use to guide us to say, we know that you guys are not present? Because you might find situations where the child belongs to the father wants to take paternal leave, but the father is not present or hasn't contributed in any way or form towards the pregnancy or to this child that has been born. Where do we strike the balance? What guidelines are we going to use? That's just an avenue that we need to think about and to come with recommendations to address. Because patriarchy as it is, they will find a way to exploit and further violate us as women. Because like the comrades have said, we as women, postpartum, we have a lot of things that are going on in our bodies. Physical, hormonal, emotional. We are prone to postpartum depression and anxiety. So all that, the time that we are given is not sufficient. Coupled with that, we then have to deal with the issue of single motherhood. So that's just an avenue that we need to be cognizant of. Not all these people that are fathers are present, and we know it, we see it.
All right. Comrade Kutla, that policy, why I'm saying you must go back to the bargaining council and look at that paternity leave policy. It says if you are not married, you've got only one chance to register the life partner. But if you are married in polygamy, there's no limit. You can register even 10. It doesn't limit for a person that it's having a space that says how many wives that you want to register. But if you're unmarried, Kutla, you only register one. Whether right wakho or sofuna ukushada or left, you register one, and that's the one. No other one. Injalo la police. Like this guy I was talking about, if he happened to register the deceased, that would be the first and the last partner to register. Thank you. Commissioner.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, as Commission 4, we note all the inputs and we will be adding the additions to our recommendations as we have been advised by plenary. And also, congratulate Pick and Pay. We are on our way as the public sector to 12 months. Siyabonga, Chair.
Can you give them another round of applause? Thank you very much, Commission 3. Commission 4, ish. To President. Commission 4. And I'm sorry for being long with this commission because I'm really passionate with this one. But maybe all of them. Commission 1. Okay, all right. Comrades, yesterday we announced that Comrade Cheryl Hendricks lost her ID. It looked like there was someone that picked it up. Can you please bring it here on the table or at the table? Please, comrades, she has to take a flight back to Western Cape. Anyone that has picked up the ID, azange welenda wazanga Pick and Pay bagala. So ila. And maybe let's also contact hotel when they were cleaning if they didn't find.
Thank you, Chair. Amandla, wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo. I'm here for the Commission 1. Thank you for trusting in Shirley Nkuna to be the one that will take you through to care economy and care workers' rights. What is the care economy? Care economy focuses on all activities and relationships involved in care for people across the life course, from conception, birth through childhood, through illness or disability, and into old age. Care is a fundamental to society, yet it's devalued. Types of care. Unwaged care work, mainly located within households and communities, serving as the invisible foundation of economy. The paid care work, it focuses on roles across the public sector, such as nurses, teachers, and social workers employed by the state, as well as the private and informal economy, including private sector, nurses, teachers, domestic workers, community health workers, and home-based care. Why is it important? Care is rationalized and gender sectors, mainly employs women, often in precarious forms of employment. It is invisible work because it is extended to the work women do at home. It is essential, and it also contributes to a lot in the economy, mainly outsourced to older children and parents. You can add your neighbor. Also will help in this one. Looking at the groups that are here, we will have the EPWP, That is our social sectors. Their conditions employed as volunteers and stewards, no labor rights, wages, no minimum wage, contract work, comes to the community health workers and other cadres, no standardized, not all are absorbed by the resolution. Those without are at disadvantage. In some provinces, they are employed by NGOs. To the ECDs, no standardized. Community ECDs, wage, no. Domestic workers, the condition is invisibility. Minimum wage, but not enforceable. Scholar transport, not standardized, not subsidized. That's where we are. General elderly cleaners, our groundmen, the gardeners and food services, outsourced as care workers, not standardized. Recommendations, as we watch our TV, SONA, the budget, and which sector that is going to be cut. Health, education, social development. It's where we are, the care economy. State to standardize childcare and scholar patrol, prioritize the infrastructure development in public institutions, hospitals, schools, running water and pitch toilets in schools. 5 R's, as the previous commission left here. This was touched, the 5 R's. Recognized, reward. The one that stood up for me, which was so touching, redistribution. The way it was set, it's like me and you. And we've had another one that is reduced and representative. Essential work salary for care work included in the minimum wage. Subsidizing community after care workers. Go back to the old transportations that are safe, certified driver's permits with police clearance and experience being compulsory. Bargaining care. The care economy must become a key focus of collective bargaining. Shop stewards and bargaining structures must push for demands for living wages and equal pay for work for equal value. The insourcing of outsourced workers, secure employment, and an end to precarious work, paid maternity leave, parental and caregiving leave. Workplace protections against gender-based violence and harassment. Care allowance and child care facility in our workplaces and for all other unions activities. Provisions for facilities, opportunities and realizations of the first 1,000 days. We're going back to, that's the most important as the other commission mentioning it. I thank you.
Wow, Commission 1, if all of you, comrades, we can take this 20 minutes. Any additions from the commissioners? Commission 1? Additions? Saktau? tax side.
Chairperson of the session. I'm stuck to clothing and textile.
Oh my goodness. What's going on with me today?
No, don't worry, Chairperson. Actually, we as this commission, we are saying we want to make the invisible visible. We want to be recognized. We know that most of the people that are working are doing the care work, it's women's. But you will find out that we as the women's are undermining the other women's. Typical example, if you are a nurse, you are the one who's doing the job more than the doctor. But you will find out the people are recognizing the doctor, whereas you are the one who's doing more work. Anyway, maybe there's gonna be more additions in my group. Thanks, Chair.
Additions from the commissioners. Is there any other board? Okay. In brief, this commission was saying, Comrade Nasip, I don't see the board. Okay. Speak, comrade. Comrade.
Thank you, Chair. I was requested to add on the issue of care for a pregnant woman or maternity care that starts from conception, where we talk to the issue of 1,000 days to prevent malnutrition. That starts when the woman is pregnant. From pregnancy, we go through the stages of pregnancy. Then normally a woman don't feel well. Some they have some complications. They have to go to high risk. They are sick. They have doctor's appointment. That's where the 1,000 days comes from. Then post-delivery, the woman is expected to breastfeed exclusively for about 6 months, or a woman normally is expected to breastfeed for a year if it's not expected to be exclusive. So that's where she wanted me to add the issue of the 1,000 days, coupling with the issue of care facilities within the institution, where a woman maybe is breastfeeding, is expected to be at work, and then after work or during lunchtime must rush home to breastfeed a child, then come back to work. So that's why she wanted me to add that part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, commissioners, for Commission 1. Any other input from the commission? Okay. NGC, can you engage? Sakau.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, comrades, and thank you, Commission, for the presentation. Now, comrades, I just want to check here. I didn't hear the Commission talking on the issue of unpaid care work, the unpaid labor at home that we spoke about yesterday. So I think it is also very important that we talk about it, comrades. And even yesterday, we mentioned that it is done and it's not paid. So I believe that we should start talking about it, comrades, because this unpaid work, which is done by mostly women, I hear that 76% of the unpaid work or unpaid labor at home is done by women. So when you look at this unpaid labor that is done at home by mostly women, it benefits our capitalists. Yesterday we spoke about sharing the load with our partners at home, that men must also assist. But who benefits the most is the capitalist. So those people who are doing this unpaid labor at home, comrades, must be paid. So I also recommend that we also look at it, and in the near future, also put it in the bargaining table to say that, yes, I'm a worker, I'm working, but there's still work that I have to go and do at home as a woman, and men too, who this work is done for on their behalf by mostly women, they must be compensated on that. As workers now, we are employing all auntie who are assisting us at home with the little salary that we are getting from the employers. So I think in the future, we must look at it, that capitalism must try, business must try to look at the unpaid labor at home that is keeping it going. Let me make an example. If today all those people who are doing unpaid labor at home can say, I'm not doing it today. So some of us will come back at home, there'll be no food, the house will be uncleaned, no one's going to take care of the children. The following morning, there'll be disruption in the economy. Because most of the people, like men, who are cleaned at home, made lunchbox on their behalf, will go to work very late, will go to work not clean. Some of them won't go to work because this unpaid labor at home was not done. So there will be a disruption in the economy, comrades. So I think it's high time that you start talking about unpaid labor at home, that it must be paid, and we put it in the bargaining table. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Actually, comrade, you are elaborating on their recommendation. They've said unpaid care work needs to be redistributed, needs to be reduced, it needs to be recognized, it needs to be rewarded. They've mentioned the 5 R's. The 5 R's. So, Ukomret was just explaining the 5 R's. What unpaid care work needs those 5 R's. I don't see Comrade Brenda from Fedusa. Is she still here? She left. She is. Comrade Brenda, this conference is saying to you, care work is a public good. It's not a commodity. As you go back to international organization, ILO, labor organization, where business is arguing with you that care work is not a public good, I think you are capacitated. Please take 1 second or 2 minutes just to share with us your debates at the ILO on recognizing care work as a public good. Ngathi ngiyamsapo ngimbamba ngecourage. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I know that she is negotiating in that table for that.
Thank you so much for the time and the inputs. We'll work on it and update everything. Amandla.
Thank you very much for Commission 1. Commission 3. Commission 3, Kateko. Is it 5? Okay, Commission 5.
Minutes. I'll try my best, Chair.
Amandla, Amandla, viva Cosatu, 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 viva. What's in Tabafazi? No, thank you, Chairperson. No, this is the work of Commission 5. reporting back to the NGC, the resolutions that were taken. So the chairperson was Dr. Nkateko Mnisi, and the resource person was Comrade Buitumelo Molete. The scribe was Comrade Ruth Musiane. The rapporteur is hereby Makgotso Mapena standing before you. Okay, our topic, it's gender climate change and just transition. So we want the Commission to note that South Africa is a historically coal-intensive economy which faces significant climate change challenges, which is grappling with triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and equality. The Cosatu Thank you. The Cosatu 2011 policy on climate change provides the framework for a just transition centering working class issues. This includes women. The Cosatu Blueprint 2022 provides an opportunity to advance demands covering socio-economic aspects of just transition. This includes calling for worker participation and considering women in rural communities, informal workers, and gender diverse. This includes the livelihoods on food security, water access, health system, education, and housing infrastructure. So we believe that the government has a responsibility to support the just transition through frameworks and policies address climate changes and its socio-economic impacts. Women must be capacitated as participants in the transition, not only as consumers, that is not only for cleaning work, cooking, these raised as alternatives, interventions with sector specifics and workplace plans for skilling and participation. So Cosatu diversification, localization, and support for the informal economy are essential for the just transition that creates green and decent jobs. We are all affected, comrades, so we need to all go green because it's not only a national problem that is affecting South Africa, it is affecting globally. So we have 4 seasons in one day. Now it's hot, now it's cold, now it's windy, so we all have to strive for green jobs. So, as a Commission, we have resolved to reaffirm the 2022 NGC resolution in its entirety. We recommend the adoption of and implement the Cosatu Just Transition Toolkit. This is the toolkit that we are talking about. This is what we recommend as a Commission. Prioritize women and gender diverse workers across all Cosatu sectors, including private sector, mining and energy, transport and public sector, healthcare and hospital networks, municipal services, security cluster, personnel. This will also include farming and agriculture workers, recycling and informal sector workers. Remember, we have been talking about care work. So the care work, it's informal labor, whereby it's labor that is unpaid. So I think other commissions have alluded that informal work needs to be recognized and it needs people to be paid. That's part of recognition. Address unpaid care work and prevent women from bearing disproportionate burdens of climate advertisers. Leadership in Cosatu and affiliates must be gender conscious, ensure that women representation on all just transition and energy institutions and bodies. This includes all spheres of gender in Cosatu, which is your national, provincial, and also your local. So you must mainstream. Whatever that happens nationally, it should be cascaded down to provincial and locally so that we are all aligned. So education and training. Reform curriculum and Department of Basic Education and Training, Department of Higher Education and Training. accredited training on climate change, occupational health and safety, and just transition at the level of union and workplace. So, comrades, on this point, health and occupational health and safety, it also affects us. We had Abones in our commission when they said we are mostly affected because we have dilapidating infrastructure, so we can't acclimatize everything together. So that is very important. As well as abantu basebenze endaweni, that is health hazard. So we need to guard against that. So that includes improving working conditions for security cluster personnel, farmers, municipal workers, emergency personnel, health workers, and also laptop. Okay. Including all workers at the front line and responding to climate change adversities. So on this point, we talked about each and everyone that is in the employment industry, whereby we'll have traffic officers working outside. Yashisa now, it's extremely hot, now it's extremely cold. So those are the things that are affecting. So we need to find a way of ensuring that we include it in the, when we do the negotiations. Okay. So social protection and relief, establish relief funds and comprehensive social protection for workers affected by climate change, natural disasters and job losses, ensure that housing and education, healthcare and essential services. If you look at KwaZulu-Natal, it's always affected by these natural disasters. So economic inclusion and green jobs, promote local production and manufacturing of renewable energy components and technologies, support circular economy and recycling value chains to include women, protect workers in informal sectors, that has been mentioned. So in climate finance, ensure public, private and international climate finance benefits workers and communities. Prioritize gender responsive funding, including decarbonization of mines and energy sectors with consideration of gender policies. And policy legislation, renew and reform labor legislation. This includes your employment equity, basic conditions of employment, labor relations, and to reflect in the just transition and future of work. Strengthen social dialogue mechanisms and capacitate gender champions in climate forums. Sectoral focus, diversification of energy in mining sectors with adequate participation of women. Spatial planning and infrastructure, develop climate change resilience infrastructure and town planning to reduce gendered impacts. Ensure safe, efficient, and affordable public transport. Monitor and evaluation. Track implementation of just transition policies and national gender conference resolutions. Empower climate activists and gender structures to lead advocacy and oversight. In this point, comrades, we can't be making policies and not going to monitor and evaluate them. So it's important that when we make a policy, we ensure that we evaluate to see if there are gaps and where can we amplify and what is still relevant. So monitoring and evaluation is quite important. So on communication and advocacy, disseminate information at national, provincial and local levels, use media, social platforms and union channels to raise awarenesses. The link on bread and butter issues to climate change and just transition. So it must not be a Cosatu thing, but it needs to be disseminated and ensure that unions also take whatever the resolutions, ensure that they are cascaded down to institution shop floors. And that's where I end my presentation, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
That's Commission 5. Commissioners from Commission 5, any input? Animncedeni uthi niyathula manje. Okay, everything is, you are well represented. Additions or questions from the conference? It was clear. Can we give them the round of applause? Commission 2. Have you submitted your Comrade Damatle? She submitted. Commission 2, please come on.
Greetings to the plenary. I am Nomvo Makata from the Eastern Cape. I am here to present Commission 2, which was talking to gender-based violence, sexual harassment, and the implementation of the ILO C190. So forms of violence in South Africa remain a glaring issue, with the statistics of cases of gender-based violence at an alarming rate in recent years. This led to women and organizations to take a stand in December of 2025 to call for the president to declare gender-based violence and femicide a national disaster, calling for the urgency in dealing with GBVF, accountability, and a collective responsibility. The president did declare GBVF a pandemic on the 8th of December 2025. In South Africa, we experienced the lack of collective responsibility towards GBVF because some people in our community view that the lens that is only directed at violence perpetuated against women and the violence committed against men is downplayed. When we had at the beginning of the commission in our group, we had a very robust deliberation about what GBV is, because essentially gender-based violence is violence that is perpetuated against a group of people because of their gender, because of the vulnerability of their gender. But you will find that in South Africa, there's the argument that people are saying that not only women experience gender-based violence, which means then we do not have
a common understanding of what gender-based violence is. Because when we are putting the lens on gender-based violence, we are not essentially saying that men do not experience violence. We are not only saying that men's lives don't matter. Men do experience intimate partner violence, domestic violence. They do get to be victims of sexual assault and all that. We are not saying that doesn't matter, but we are saying that the statistics show that women are the ones who are more likely to suffer crimes because of the vulnerability of their gender, and also children, and also members of the LGBTQI community. Those people, they are being targeted because of their gender. In the feminist school, we did talk about women facing triple oppression. They are oppressed because of their gender, they are oppressed because of their race, and they are oppressed because of their class. So hence, organizations and women and feminists are calling for gender-based violence to be seen as a national disaster. There is a national strat plan on the gender-based violence and femicide built on 6 pillars. Accountability. We all need to take accountability, because perpetrators of violence can be me, can be you, can be a relative, can be a colleague, can be a friend. We experience in our organizations, if someone is accused of any type of violence, you will find people saying, hands off our president, hands off our chairperson. So we actually need to be accountable, and we actually really need to stand with the victims and not say those things by putting them on paper, by talking about them when we are in plenary like this, but we really need to stand with victims. We cannot be having a t-shirt and slogans saying hands off our whatever in our organizations when people are actually being accused of gender-based violence or any form of harassment. And pillar number 2, prevention and rebuilding the social fabric. You will see the climate in South Africa, the social climate, it is as if there is gender wars, because when women were adorning in purple and having purple profiles calling for gender-based violence and femicide to be declared a national disaster, men went and started a green movement. So you can see that socially there is a break. Men feel like in society the ills that they are facing are not recognized. So that is why we are saying that we need prevention, we need to make campaigns, we need people to essentially understand that everyone matters, all lives matters, but we cannot turn a blind eye to the fact that children, women, and the LGBTQI community is most vulnerable to these types of violence and crimes. Justice, response, and protection. The justice system needs to actually be very consistent with how they handle cases of gender-based violence. You will find that people commit heinous crimes of gender-based violence, and because they are first-time offenders, they are out on bail. And sometimes when they are not released on bail, it is because the community is very scared, so they are actually being kept in custody for the protection of their lives, because it's seen that if they go into the community, they may be harmed. So the justice system needs to be consistent in this. They need to fiercely deal with perpetrators of gender-based violence. Response. There needs to be abrupt response, and there needs to be constructive response to cases of gender-based violence. Protection. Victims need to be protected. Many women who are in abusive relationships, they are scared to leave because some are killed for leaving a relationship. And then we ask, if she was being abused, why did she stay in that relationship? Yet Umdu is scared to leave that relationship because people get killed for leaving those relationships. So victims need to be protected, and we need to stop these utterances of asking, if I talk about an abuse that happened 5 years ago, you ask, why are you only talking now? It is not easy. Thank you. It is not easy to come out and talk about those things because of such utterances. Research, information, and management. Like I said initially, that our understanding of gender-based violence in South Africa seems to not be a common understanding. So organizations and even us as Cosatu, we need to do this research so that we can get information out there. People can have access to adequate information, and these things need to be managed. Economic empowerment, because some people stay in violent relationships because they are dependent, financially dependent on the perpetrator. Response, care, support, and healing. People who are victims of gender-based violence need support. There needs to be forums, there needs to be support groups, and there needs to be access for them to be guided through the journey of healing, because a violent relationship can have a lifetime effect of trauma. Cosatu and affiliates have gender policies that address all forms of violence and harassment. However, we still experience members not being informed on these policies and having a vague or ambiguous understanding of what harassment is. The government has taken strides to establish victim-friendly rooms or trauma rooms where victims of GBVF can be interviewed and feel safe and protected in police stations. And there's scheduling of work shifts where it is ensured that there is a mixed gender of police staff all the times on duty. Training of SAPS employees has been undertaken to capacitate police to empathetically deal and attend to gender-based violence and femicide cases. SAPS also has a social crime component where the SAPS and other stakeholders go to communities and schools to make awareness about social ills and crimes. In health establishments, there are Tutuzela centers established to attend to sexual assault victims. In these centers, the victim is attended to by a nurse, a doctor, with the presence of an SAPS staff and a referral to a counselor or social worker. However, not all hospitals have the Tutuzela centers, and not all police stations have these trauma rooms. The International Labour Organization, C190, looking at the violence and harassment in the world of work, is the first international treaty to recognize the right of everyone to a world of work free from violence and harassment, including GBV. That led to the amendment of the Code of Good Practice, Harassment and Violence in the Workplace. In the first conference of Cosatu, we were calling for the rectification of the IOL 190, and it was ratified in November 2021. There is a difference between the world of work and the workplace, because when we're talking about the workplace, we are kind of limiting it to the office space, to the institution where we work. But when we are talking about the world of work, it extends to when we come to congresses like this, when we go for workshops and we are housed somewhere else outside of the working institution. So our policies really need to be in line with addressing a world of work instead of the workplace. These are our resolutions. Cosatu and affiliates should ensure that there is continued evaluation and monitoring for the implementation of policies, because policies are there, but you will find that there is a hindrance in the implementation and actually making people aware of such training people on these policies. Sexual harassment and GBVF policies should be on every notice board in our workplaces, and they should be in a language that the workers understand. Cosatu and affiliates should train and capacitate not only shop stewards, but members, also through awareness campaigns, workshops, and social media. Because you find Uguti on the social media platform, where even the growing generation is exposed, there is a lot of misinformation information being communicated there. There are podcasts that anyone can just wake up because they have a huge following in social media. They start a podcast and they have views that are very dangerous to be consumed by young people, and they misinform us. And in patriarchal systems ensure that we get information that is still in line with perpetuating patriarchy. And there is the red pill content where males are coming up and ensuring that the upcoming generation of men actually has information that is very harmful towards females, where you see that this gender war that I was talking about between the genders is perpetuated, right? Cosatu and affiliates should put pressure on the government to establish the trauma rooms in every police station and Tutuzela centers in every hospital. Furthermore, the security at Tutuzela centers should be intensified for the protection of the victim, the staff, and there should be staff designated to attending victims only, because we were talking about how in the Tutuzela centers it is mostly females who work there. So and there's not enough security. So sometimes the perpetrator can come in to further threaten and victimize the victim and even threaten the staff. And also you find that in hospitals, the doctor who's attending to all emergencies is still supposed to be the doctor who's attending to these victims. So a victim might sit there waiting for a long time because the doctor is in theater, the doctor is attending to someone in the ICU or whatever. So the government actually needs to staff these Tutuzela centers with staff that is designated to work there. Cosatu and affiliates to allocate funds and resources to gender structures for the running of gender programs. Cosatu and affiliates to intensify training of shop stewards on the handling of sexual harassment cases. Cosatu must engage other stakeholders, government and social organizations that have running programs on GBVF and sexual harassment to show a magnified support and unity with victims. Cosatu to make a call to the South African judiciary to implement severe sentences on perpetrators of GBVF. Intensify awareness campaigns on educating communities where to report, how to seek assistance, and the role of the SAPS, the NPA, and the justice system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commission 2. Any input from the Commission? Sakao, Samatu. Okay, in that order. Sakao.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, my daughter, for the good presentation. Comrades, I just want to add one issue here that we also spoke about incorporating gender-based violence and harassment in collective bargaining agreements. Yesterday, we had a presentation by Mrs. Nosipo where we heard that incorporating GBVH in collective bargaining is going to have a good result, and it is having good results. So if we incorporate it into collective bargaining agreements, it becomes binding, enforceable, and it creates more accountability for both employers and trade unions. And also we need to have GBVH committees, and also health and safety committees can also assist on issues of GBV. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Samatu.
Thank you, Comrade. Just on the issue of training of personnel with regards to handling these GBV cases, a lot of emphasis has been placed on training police officers and equipping the police station to be able to handle these cases. But what we find in the workplaces is that it's not only policemen that need training. Even the doctors and the nurses, they need training, not only to examine the patients and be able to document the injuries, but the necessary emotional intelligence and to be trained on the psychology of these victims. Because what you find most of the time, And this goes hand in hand with shortage of staff, where a person is overstimulated, has multiple responsibilities, and still has to sit down, calm down, and be at a point where they can psychologically be empathetic towards a person who has gone through a case of GBV, which is not the case that we see in our hospitals. So we need to put a lot of emphasis also on the further of training of medical professionals, because the assumption is always that just because it's a doctor, they will treat the patient well, which is not always the case that we see. So for that, we also need feedback mechanisms of victims that have gone to these Tutuzela centers, to these police stations, once their cases has been handled, to say, how can we improve? What was your experience at the police station? What was your experience at the Tutuzela Center? What was your experience at the hospital? Not to base our findings on being punitive, but to go back and then educate these professionals, or actually put strategies that can improve the way we handle our victims and encourage the victims to come back and report the cases. Okay, that was it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Saktu. Text time.
Thank you, Comrade Chair. Good morning to the NGC. Comrade Chair, as Saktu, we need to add on the resolution of sexual harassment. We are noting that Cosatu have a sexual harassment policy that provides for a procedure in dealing with the sexual harassment complaints in the Federation. Affiliates of the Federation have been encouraged to adopt the policy dealing with the sexual harassment complaints, instances of sexual harassment in its affiliates, believing that the importance of advocacy, education and awareness across all the structures in Federation. Then as Saktu, we resolve that Cosatu to develop a pledge for consideration and adopt at Congress. The pledge shall provide the delegates and officials attending and participating at all Cosatu structural meetings commit their support against all forms of sexual harassment at and during its structural meetings, in particular, national. And Comrade Chair, for not maybe drawing the NGC, which page I'm referring to, I'm on page 60, if they need to see that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's no other hand. I've got a question. Oh, Nehau, sorry.
This is the addition to the commission that we said we need to have a standardized and structured training for all our gender structures that will be driven from Cosatu to the affiliates, and the affiliates to the provinces and the region, so that we can talk one language, all of us. When we train them on GBVF and age, all of us must say one thing. It must be standardized. And also on national strategic plan, because most of our gender structures coordinators, they don't know more about the national strategic plan. And also we've talked about the funding. We've talked about the funding in our commission, that all these programs need to be funded. It won't help us to sit here and talk. And when we're supposed to be implementing all of this, we don't have funding. So the instruction must come from Cosatu to the affiliate so that we can get funding, because we all know as gender that we don't have our specific budget to run these programs, to run this training. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nehau. Plenary. That was an input from the commissioners. Nehau Popkru.
Nehao.
Thank you, Comrade Chairperson. Comrades, my name is Mpole Teleha, all the way from Free State, Department of Social Development, and I am appointed as a gender-based violence and femicide social worker. So this commission spoke directly to me, and as the forum, we do have a victim empowerment program forum in each municipality. So we are concerned that there are pieces of legislation speaking to women and children as compared to men. And one of the concerns that we have is that what do you do when a victim is a man? Because there's not much resources at our disposal in order for us to intervene in cases where a victim is a man. We look at our shelters for victims of crime and violence. They are mostly accommodative of women and children as compared to men. And also men were asking, why is it there that there's an F in addition to GBV? Because it's not only the killing of women by men that is happening, there's also killing of men by women. What are we then saying about androcide? When is our government going to take into consideration the killing of men? Also, I noted that most of their resolutions were on training of the police, the doctors, but in our forums, we would appreciate if training could be provided to all key stakeholders who work directly with victims from all the departments. And also I actually share the same sentiments at Cosatu, because some of us secondary victims are children, and the children are in schools, so teachers get to experience children displaying behavior due to secondary victimization. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Popcro.
Thank you very much, and let's appreciate the work of the Commission. Commission 2. Mine is only on 2 issues, and the issue of the memorandum that we saw, that was talking in terms of how as unions, I think it has chapters that speaks about our own as unions, how we are able to then link gender-based violence in our workplaces. And it's very much important, because the one part that we did not get when we are talking about code of good practice is the inclusion of violence. Now, this memorandum talks strictly in terms of the gender-based violence that is there. So it will be important for us as gender coordinators to talk to this memorandum and be able to align it with our own policies that we have still not yet reviewed, because I know most of the workplaces, they have not reviewed their sexual harassment policies, but the Department of Public Service in 2024, I think, they have reviewed their sexual harassment policy, so it includes the convention, the prescripts of Convention 190, but it's still talking to violence as a discriminatory part, not including it under e-violence. The one thing that I wanted to reiterate, comrades, the Cosatu sexual harassment prevention and handling police, as sitting here, comrades, we do not do much in terms of the appointment. We're talking about training. The most important part is the appointment of sexual harassment officers and advisors and the commissions. So I would say we've been talking about this. Can we start by maybe implementing the policy that we are talking to, Chair? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Popcro. NUM.
No, thanks, Chair, and greetings to everyone. I think the first part that I wanted to talk to is the one that Comrade Matsidiso from Popo just spoke about now, because I wanted to check when we started our conference, we did not talk to the policy or outline the policy that we are having, because we are in a gender conference. Because the problem that we are having most is that all the policies that are there are mostly policies in our workplaces. But when we attend such conferences or union activities in our affiliates, we don't have a policy that covers us, which is one of the problems that we are having. Because also in NUM, we thought, or the mighty NUM, the policy that was there, it covers us until recently when we went to our meeting and we discovered that no, the policy only talks to the staff of NUM. It does not cover us when we attend activities. How do we handle these issues within the union activities and. There's no policy that talks to us. But then it also needs us as gender structures to be the one that are championing these things. Because most of the policies that are there, they refer to the GS, they refer to, but then it needs us also. When we talk about the constant evaluation, it must be us within the gender structures that make sure that within our meetings or on certain occasions, we are the one that evaluates and check what happens within the policies and what does it entail within those policies that we're having. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Sakao.
Thanks, Chair. We also think that another challenge that we are facing is the justice system in terms of the rights of the perpetrator as per the Constitution of South Africa, because they have the right for application of bail. They come home and they do the same thing. So it violates the rights of the survivors. So the justice system should be changed, or I don't know whether it's in English, of changing the Constitution or reviewing the Constitution or amending the Constitution. But the aspect of educators will tell us which is the right thing, because now I'm scanning input for, I don't know these terms. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sakao. NUM, that will be the last hand. Samo, okay, sorry.
No, Chairperson, Samu rise to put emphasis on the gender policies of Cosatu. However, we are saying as affiliates, we'll go back, we'll amend, we'll submit, because fortunately, the very same conference has going to announce the new leadership that is going to forefront the gender within Cosatu. So as some we are saying, we'll go back, we'll submit in terms of gender, specifically on the GBV point of view.
Thank you very much. My question to the Commission, have you looked at the declaration by the State President that GBV is a national disaster? And how can we take advantage of that period? Because I believe that period comes with resources, and it gives us a chance to achieve those things that we said we can't achieve because we don't have resources. Have you looked at how far government or a ruling party has gone in terms of that disaster management now? Because there should be a disaster management plan in place. And are we influencing that disaster management plan? Because yesterday, I think OSG also echoed me to say it can't be business as usual. You can't say today there's a disaster in Durban, there are floods, and it's business as usual. Shelter. Today we are hearing that we don't have enough shelters.
people, maybe we can take that advantage if you have looked at it. I know to Lizel yesterday, when she presented, she mentions, I think, 3 points that during this disaster we should then achieve this and that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We did a look into the declaration of gender-based violence being declared a disaster, but we feel that our participation is not enough or is not significant because of the resources. Hence, we were echoing that the gender structures should be given resources and finances to champion these things, because even when there are cases in the areas where we are, we sometimes lack the resource to show solidarity and support to our victims and to be visible as Cosatu and affiliates. And it was also said that there is also a break in communication, because sometimes people are willing to be visible as affiliates and as in the position of Cosatu, but the information does not reach them in time. Maybe they will hear after the fact that there was such a movement because of such a case, because there have been cases that have been very public on social media, and we've seen various stakeholders showing support to victims, but you don't see Cosatu or as affiliates being very prominent even in those public spaces. So really, as Cosatu, we really need to move into this space that gender-based violence and femicide is declared a national disaster, and hence we were saying that we need to work in collaboration with government and social organizations to exist in those spaces and to make sure that in this period of gender-based violence being a disaster, we are very visible and we take participation to the maximum.
Thank you very much, Commission 2. I think there are no more questions. Can you give them the round of applause? Comrades Khomotso, Comrade Emilia, the President has appointed 10 candidates as a board that will look at the gender-based violence and femicide. I can't pronounce, no, don't clap hands. I want to say we are not caught with our pants down, but we are caught sleeping on duty. We are sleeping on duty. I do have the names. I don't know how they source the names. It's just that I can't pronounce my names. I'm Poppy Activon. But in other platforms, women were congratulating eight women and 2 males who have been appointed by the President as a board. And there's no one from Labour. When we've got a C190 that we are championing. I'm saying this because I'm blaming myself as well. I don't know how we missed this train. I thought yesterday, when I was challenging a minister, I would come to this thing. Because that means there is a plan. And izosebenza kanjani le board. But what no, give me time, I'll come back and explain and share. I think you need to call the minister very soon so that azosinikeza the plan
to manage this disaster. Whether she brings the board members to come and explain. I'll share the names of the board members. I'll share the names of the board members. But there is a movement, comrades. There is a movement. Maybe we are left out. We are not part of the train. I'm not sure. But the names are not coming from us. Yeah. As I close that commission, Commission 3. Okay. Now, Sis Kate, if you show something. Commission 3.
No, thanks, Lalo. I just wanted us not, when we go out here, we go with a notion that we haven't done anything as Cosatu on the issue of the commission of the council. We have received those names. Actually, we had a nomination as Cosatu. We nominated a person. Because we do all those things through our parliamentary office. We nominated a person, and when we received the nominations, now the appointed commissioners, we then wrote a letter, an official letter from Cosatu to say we oppose and we are not in line with those that have been appointed, because we still believe that in that commissioner we need a labor perspective, a trade union perspective. Secondly, that it has been hold on. So it doesn't mean that those that were appointed, they're going to start, because there were also other civil society organizations that have put their objections. So that cancel, it's still not going to happen now until all those issues are resolved. Thanks.
Thank you, Sis Katie, for that information. Commission 3.
Amandla. Awethu. Viva Cosatu gender structure, viva. Wathinta bafazi. Wathinta Mbogoto. No, thank you very much, Chair of the proceedings. I'm from Commission 3, under Gender Policies, Implementation and Organizational Power. Our chairperson, Ki Tando Ndabamatika from Teachers Union, your scribers, myself, Sotori Dabe, Cosatu Free State Gender Provincial Secretary, and Comrade Zimasa Zikubu, Cosatu KZN, PGC, and your rapporteur is my good self, Sotori Dabe. Comrades, first on your screens, it's a reflection of in the form of figure. Affiliates membership, women and men affiliates with Gender Days 2026. Only 10 affiliates are reflected there, which is your Nehau, Sadtu, Nam, Samu, Popkru, Dinosa, Saktu, Sasbo, Sepau, as well as Afaju. Now, if you look at the first one, Nehau is sitting at 63% in terms of membership of women representation. Your teachers union is sitting at 69%, and then NAM is sitting at 30%, 52% it's SAMU. Poku is 41%, Dinosa 89%, Saktu Textile is 80%. Sasbo 70% and Sepau 22%. The last one would be Afatu at 64%. We felt that it is very much imperative that we make that reflection. Now, moving on to our problem statement, comrades, as the Commission, we've identified policy implementation gaps. Cosatu as a federation does have progressive gender policies, inclusive of 50-50% women representation, but implementation remains a challenge compromise. Now, gender structures exist in affiliates, but are not functional, resourced or prioritized. The core problem, there is a systematic failure to translate gender policy into organizational power and real representation, comrades. There's also under-representation of women in leadership. We acknowledge as the Commission that women dominate membership in many affiliates. Inter alia would be Cosatu, around 58%, Nehau, 69%. But the challenge is, as and when women are supposed to be represented in higher structures, it becomes a challenge, comrades. Representation declines at higher levels. The likes of your NEC, women representation is below 30%. The provincial executive committees, locals, and even lower. There's also a challenge around strategic position where women are not represented, and it is the Commission's view that we must push for women to at least occupy these positions of chairpersons and secretaries, as they are male-dominated comrades. The core problem is that there is a structural concentration of power in male leadership, especially at the higher decision-making levels. Weak organizational structures for gender work. Gender structures, there's a lack of budget for gender activities, comrades, as well as lack of coordination. These gender structures are not embedded at the workplace level. Constitution does not adequately enforce gender structures at lower levels. The core problem is that gender transformation is not institutionalized across all levels of the organization. Cultural and internal barriers. often women take part in making sure male comrades, they occupy these positions of power or key positions, of which it is the Commission's view that we should look into that as women. Make sure that you stand by each other, you support each other, comrades. Again, women experience fear and lack of confidence and internalize inequality. Women should engage in internal divisions and competition. Patriarchal norms persist in leadership selection processes. There's also a challenge of informal power dynamics. The core problem is that there are deep-rooted ideological and cultural barriers undermining women's unity and leadership advancement. Weak accountability and compliance. Under that, comrades, we felt as the Commission that those who are occupying positions of gender as gender coordinators, they should make sure that they attend these employment equity meetings. They must make sure that they push for women to be recognized and occupy those positions accordingly. There are no consequences. Oh my God. My God. Ek vra as fruskoning as a belief. Ki kupa tshwarelo ni celi tolo ke. Celi tolo comrades. I'm just swiftly moving to that page that I was on. Yeah, now there is no accountability mechanism to enforce gender transformation commitments. The gender division of labor. You would find comrades, particularly in our trade unions, you would find women comrades are only there as staff and administrative clerk. They don't get this strategic positions, comrade. So it is the Commission's view that that should change because only men are dominating at that level. The core problem, the proposed solutions, comrade, enforce implementation and accountability. As the Commission, we felt that we should declare non-compliance with 50-50 policy unacceptable. And there should be mandatory reporting from all gender structures. The quarterly gender stats should be reported and submitted, comrades. And we also felt as a Commission that we should move from policy to enforce transformation, because the view of the Commission was that we have policies that are in place, but implementation remains a challenge. Institutionalize gender structures at all levels, amend organizational practice and constitution if needed to establish gender structures at workplaces, local, provincial and national levels. And there should be a dedicated budget to these gender activities, clear roles and reporting lines. Outcome, build a functional gender machinery across the Federation. Build a women leadership pipeline. We should embark on a leadership development programs, mentorship and political education. Shop steward, young women, they should actively prepare for women for strategic position. Outcome, increase quality and readiness for women leaders. 2.4, drive coordinated gender campaigns. Launch a federation-wide campaign focused on women representation, leadership transformation. Outcome, comrades, turn gender equality into a mass organizational programs and transform organizational culture. It is the view of the Commission that women must unify themselves and be in solidarity, conscious rejection to patriarchal norms, Address internal divisions amongst women, informal processes that favor men, encourage women to organize collectively and support each other. The target strategic positions was that women should focus explicitly on these positions of chairpersons and secretaries. Women on top. I've heard this very interesting song, that of Women on Top. President, while he was addressing yesterday, I think he wanted more clarity on that as to what does this mean actually. But you didn't respond to the chair. Conclusion, the document reveals a fundamental contradiction. Cosatu has a progressive gender policies but patriarchal power relations, weak implementation and lack of accountability to prevent real transformation. Strategic solutions required. Move from policy compliance to power transformation. Move from representation, control of leadership and decision making. Move from fragmented efforts, coordinate organizational program. Under constitutional amendments, comrades, the Commission proposed the Commission has endorsed the proposal from the amendments, from the NGC on constitutional amendments. However, the highlighted section will require the conference to deliberate on. Page 25 of composition. Page 39, composition in the PC provincial conference, 6.2.1.5, delete at 7.2.2 does not talk to affiliates wrongly quoted. We want to read as LOBs designated to gender and endorsed by local gender. Delete executive committee. On page 65, representation, 15.3.1.2.2, the local gender chairpersons and deputy chair, gender coordinators, replace with national gender secretary. And on 16.1, this clause, it is the Commission's view that it is incomplete. There is an omission on how many NEC members must support the proposed resolution. It is therefore the Commission's view that the proposal should be 2/3 of affiliates in good standing. Thank you very much to the plenary. And any clarity-seeking questions that will be arising would not only be direct to my good self, but to the Commission at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commission 3. Any additions from the Commission? I don't see a hand. Any point of clarity from the plenary? Sakau or additions? Sakau Textile Pop Crew? Sakau is addition. Or Commission, was someone from the Commission? No, it's now plenary. Yes, I've noted Pop Crew, Sakau, Saktu Pop Crew. In that order, comrades.
Chair, we want to raise the issue of the Commission making broad statements around women. That doesn't bode well with us. One, I think it's a very untrue statement, because if you look in this room today, you don't see lack of confidence. You see confident women that is able to deal with the issues at hand. So that general statement must be withdrawn from the Commission. The second issue, Chair, excuse me, is the issue of the Commission saying because of infighting amongst women, we are unable to consolidate and then move up in the ranks of our trade unions. That's also a very untrue statement. I think that if a survey was done, then we will maybe accept what their observations are saying. But at this point, I don't think anybody was interviewed or a questionnaire was not handed out to make such observations, because women, when they go to structures, and we seem to forget the most problematic areas of structures. You enter a structure, the structure is called on weekends where you are spending time with your family and trying to do your things at home. But meetings always sits on a Friday, Saturday and a Sunday most of the time. Not during the week when we are at work, when we are paying attention to work issues. But over weekends where it really compromises us as females, because I think everybody has heard this morning that the care work that females doesn't allow us to go home after work and go and sit and watch TV. But we go home and we then carry on with our unpaid duties. I don't know who made that rule to say that when you get married, that unpaid duties becomes the female's role. But that is the issue for us as Sakao. We are saying when we give a view, it must be a balanced view. We should not be making general statements that could lead to us being unhappy out of this NGC, because that's not the purpose of the NGC. Other than that, we appreciate the work that the Commission has done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sakao. Cosatu, text time.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, NGS. From Cosatu, proposed resolution. Women in leadership and representation in the Federation. Noting that the Federation have clear resolutions and policy guidelines to advance the leadership of women in the Federation structures and amongst its affiliates. Further noting that there had been much progress in Federation and its affiliate in the development and capacity building of women, in particular in the Federation and affiliation in general. Comrades, I want to refer you to the constitutional provision, composition 15.2.7. It reads like this: the Federation structures and activities are composed by at least 50% women. We as Cosatu say this is not enough. That is what we don't want. So before I'm going to go to the resolve part, comrades, there's a few changes I want to make. After the word Cosatu, it's going to read, I want to add on there, and affiliates, and then the word that say encourage, I want to change that word to enforce. Now I'm going to read the resolve part. Cosatu and affiliates should enforce a 50% of women participation and representation at all its meetings, its structures and activities in the Federation. Thank you, my comrades.
Thank you so much.
Comrade Chair, if I may, through to Chairperson, I want to ask if permission, if Cosatu can have a follow-up on the constitution matters through you, Chairperson, if we can have a follow-up.
It's okay.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity, and good afternoon to all the delegates. Comrade Chair, as we are still talking about delegates at Gender Conference, as Cosatu, we are noting the attendance of affiliates in good standing provides for equal participation of 10 delegates to attend and participate at the Gender National Provincial Conferences. We resolve that in the event of an election of a national office bearer, voting delegates shall proportionate to those affiliates in good standing or paid up member status of the affiliates in the Federation. The voting participants during such elections shall be mutandis mutatis, as outlined in the Cosatu Constitution. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Popko.
Thanks, Chair. Let's welcome the work of the commission. Chair, they have done a good job, but we just want to make an input on few things. But probably to start from where my president from Sakau started, I think I understand where the commission is coming from in terms of the issue of lack of confidence. If you go to your lower structures, not probably at this level, at your lower structures, that is the difficulty that you will get. I know others, we call it institutions, but others they call it branches, where you've got a problem of women don't want to take up these positions. And I think the second issue of the infighting, it might not be at this level, but in other levels where we can see, I think it's a practice that comes from different organizations. And that is the practice that we don't want to be the practice in the federation, where we see men, we use women to settle these things, because when you go to the issue of leadership, where you expect women to support a woman candidate, they are used to follow now as voting cows to vote for that man instead of supporting one of their own to rise up to that position. I think I take it in that recommendations or what was reported by the commission. On page under the constitutional amendments, on page 30, where they speaks about the representation, I will propose that they should still bring the gender coordinator, national gender coordinator, rather add the secretary, because currently the status in the CEC is as proposed, but it's just that it's not covered in the constitution. So just to constitutionalize it, in the CEC is the chairperson of gender, the secretary of gender, and the national gender coordinator. So my proposal will be just add secretary, then it means you'll have 3 that will represent the structure in the CEC in the Congress also. And then when you go to the provinces, you know that the work of the gender in the provincial offices, because we don't have somebody appointed as the provincial gender coordinator by Cosatu, affiliates the federation will not afford, as we know that we are struggling for now financially. So we are using our administrator, provincial administrator, also as our provincial gender coordinator to assist the provincial gender coordinators to drive the programs. As you know that most of these comrades will not be full-time. They will be still with the employer, and they will be expected to drive the gender programs of the federation. So your provincial administrators should remain part of those meetings at the provincial level, as we are having the national gender coordinator. That will be our proposal. Chair, and then page 71, where they speaks about the dissolution. We don't have an NEC in Cosatu. We have a CEC. So if they can delete that NEC and say CEC. And lastly, Chair, because it was a recommendation from the previous conference of 2022, I don't know why are we afraid of it, because it can bring more women. Why are we subjected to 10-10? Because even when we go to the national congress, wherever, Cosatu talks about the proportional representatives. why then are we subjected to 10? Because we are not suggesting that we want to use the numbers that the affiliates will bring to fight elections, but to say, to be fair, if you check, I know that the biggest affiliates will follow as Pop Christian, how Cosatu, NUM, Pop Cruz, and so on and so on, and SAC2, so on. But we are not saying we are closing. I know some, they've got numbers also, and other affiliates. I mean, we are not saying we want to close, but I want to check why, when coming to gender, we are subjected to 10-10. If you don't want to deal with the issue of the proportional representative, why then don't you increase the number? So that we can bring, if you say you want to bring more women, rather, if you want to avoid that, increase the number from 10. Thank you very much, Chair.
That one needs a round of applause, comrades. Young workers. Chairperson of Young Worker.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is to propose on the plenary on the organizational amendment, page 60, on the main document. I'm pleading to the plenary through affiliates. I'm proposing that let's adopt a proposed resolution from a clothing and textile. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Dinosa will be the last hand. Okay. Interesting commission. Dinosa Nehau Satu.
No, thank you, Chair. Dinosa, we stand, now I see, in solidarity. But my input, Chair, is that the issue of proportional representation, really, I know you wanted Wena to adopt it. So we're asking that for procedural, because really, even if we are talking about the bigger affiliates will be in the conference, why is not happening in the mother body of Cosatu? Because it's still just like that. And when they've caucused and they've lobbied each other and whatever, and say Kidiboni is a president of Cosatu, it will come just like that. So it can also happen here. We will still want to see that proportional representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinosa Nehau.
Thanks, Chair. I think we are covered. We were standing for supporting the proportional representation.
Okay. Satu, teachers.
Chair, we're speaking on behalf of the Commission. We think that the President of Pope covered the context within which the debates unfolded in our Commission, particularly related to issues of confidence, because an example was cited that at times, as a woman, you are approached or lobbied to be in a particular position, but because of lack of confidence, sometimes issues arise and you decline to take that position. And sometimes there are incidents that would sort of make women want to shy away from positions of leadership. An incident has occurred somewhere in South Africa where a comrade's house, a women comrade's house was bombed. So that leads to women not being keen to take up positions of leadership. We further want to make mention that we think we're covered, like we emphasized, but on the dissolution, perhaps it would have been a typo, but it was the NC, meaning the National Congress, the dissolution on page 61 of the 71 of the Constitution, not NEC, NC, National Congress. Thank you.
NUM?
No, Chair, I think most of the points were covered when we wanted to talk to, because we also wanted to talk to the issue of confidence. But what we were saying as the commission is that the gender structures must be there from lower level upwards so that it can assist us in building us, so that when we get to the higher level, at least you have been built up from the scratch upwards, because Tabiseng was not born being able to stand in front of people and talk to people, but through the levels that are there within the structures, we are able to talk and we are able getting more and more confident in terms of your statement. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No, thank you very much, Chair of the sessions. I think as the Commission, we've noted all your submission and inputs, and then they will be attended to accordingly. And thank you very much to the Chairperson of the Commission, as well as my leader there in clarifying. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the scribers and the reporters. Thank you very much, comrades, for committing to this work. This is the important part of our conference, and we have come to an end. Okay. I'm seeing two boards, and there's NUM and Dinosa. Samu.
No, thanks, Chair. It's not necessarily on the commission. It's, I'm seeing that we are closing on our resolution and everything. I wanted to talk to another issue that was not necessarily on the commission. The issue of the findings through the pads that we are using, that was done by the University of Free State. What are we saying as the gender structure in terms of the impact that it has on us as women? Can't we have a voice in terms of that, or a resolution, or talk to it as a gender structure? Thanks, Chair.
Are you submitting a special resolution? NUM? As a special resolution, because we have closed the debates. I was going to give a process on how are we going to process the priorities and the resolutions. Samu, you wanted to talk before I outline the processes in Dinosa? Dinosa? If you want to second the NUM, is fine. Samu?
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. Before you conclude and analyze all the recommendations for the Congress, something came up in my mind. We talked about women, we talked about kids, we talked about men. But has anyone talked about people living with disability? None of the commissions touched that. So,
no, comrades are bringing issues that were not in the commission.
I just wanted us to take it in consideration. Thank you.
We do have a desk in Cosatu that caters for people that are living with disability. And we have consulted with that desk coming to this conference. I think, comrades, let's stick to what the commissions were discussing. Dinosa?
With humble respect, Chair, being an official, yes, but Chair, it's just that I was outside when Comrade Getty was speaking, when I entered, because I felt that we mustn't, affiliates will talk, the ones who are delegates. Chair, we can't leave the issue of National Council on Gender-Based Violence as Cosatu, just to go off like that. If we are having one resolution which talks about gender-based violence. So my input, Chair, is that we know, like Comrade Getis has said, there are civil societies which are against. And when we follow, we can see that the implementation of whatever terms of reference for this council, it will take some time. So to me, I think it's an open window for Cosatu, especially this sitting, to add in the resolution gender-based violence, to say, I don't know where it will be discussed, who NGC or what, but be given that latitude to be part of the hashtag not fit for purpose of that council, because there's no labor in that and we'll miss the point. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, comrades, can you allow me to call the secretary to the podium to explain how we're going to process the resolutions as well as the priorities? I think it will be covered, Comrade Dinosa, and okay. Comrade Popko.
On the reproductive health. And I'm sure between Dinosa and Nehau, there should be some already information on this research and its implications on reproductive or on the health of women. So it's as a special resolution, Chair, because it's not catered for anyway. We are.
At Samatu. And Samatu. Nupana?
Mandla, comrades, where we are standing to, as we earlier on highlighted from the clarity from Cosatu, looking at the time, you can see the chairs are starting to become empty. The proposal from this end is that as we discussed from the commissions, other resolutions are also going to be incorporated on the declaration. We therefore propose to the conference delegates that let the document be deferred to the first NGC for cleanup, and then also after finalization to be taken to the National Congress for adoption. Thank you, Chair. Via the NGC.
That is a proposal, plenary. Cosatu Popko.
Chair, we support the proposal, but would like to further extend that the documents be shared prior with the affiliates. Thank you.
Popko.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we are in agreement on what they are proposing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nehau. No peace. I've been cautioned to kitchen or restaurant vala at 2:30, but that will be on the discretion of the NOPs. Thank you very much. Popko. And Sakau.
Chair, we remember when we break for commissions yesterday.
Yes.
We said the report, you asked about the adoption
Oh,
of the report
yes,
of
yes,
the
yes,
secretary,
yes.
which was not adopted.
True.
And we said we will do that today with recommendations. So
Yes.
we want to formally adopt the the report.
Okay, thank you so much. I nearly forgot that one. Sakau, the Secretariat report.
As Sakau silala ngengubenye with Pope Crow. Siyabonga.
Thank you very much. The report of your Secretariat is adopted. NOPs.
Mandla, sizaqula. Viva Cosatu, viva. No, thank you very much, Comrade Chair. We want to, on behalf of the conference, take this opportunity to thank you for steering this ship, Chair, your deputy, your secretaries, and your deputy secretaries, for the past. You have done excellently well to deliver this conference. We must also thank the support staff that was behind you, the provinces and all the affiliates. They gave you support to succeed. It was a trial error. If there would have been one or two missteps, it's because it was a first of its kind. And we are happy that as you depart, there's also an element of continuity here, which will take the work forward. Please don't despair. Now I'm talking to Congress. Continue to do much as you can. We have learned a lot, even ourselves as the representative of the CEC, from the debates, and we're internalizing your discussion as well as the resolutions, many of which are going to find space in the National Congress of Cosatu. So with that has been said, comrades, we want to ask the conference to join me in clapping hands as you depart your affiliates, comrade election. Thank you, comrades. Uono mungu bechachati dissolve kamo. Asa dissolve wa utsamaye. Maro tsansa atong kadi tutu cha. Comrades, we're not going to waste time. Comrades, the report by the IEC yesterday was given to you. Now I'm going to hand over to the General Secretary of Cosatu to then read out now the outcome of the conference. That was the report on the nominations. Now is the outcome of the conference in as far as the gender office bearers is concerned. No bad.
Good afternoon, comrades. I can't say Amandla, I'm the chief of the IEC. If I do that, people will say, no, this one is conflicted. Deputy President of Cosatu, the Deputy General Secretary, CEC members of Cosatu are here, Central Executive Committee of and NEC members of the affiliates, our guests that are invited to this August conference of our gender structures of Cosatu. Before I do that, President, with your permission, let's also, because we congratulated Sakau yesterday for winning a case against Walmart, Massmart. You'll recall that Walmart, Massmart wanted to sue Sakau over 10 million. The matter was in the Constitutional Court. The judgment was in favor of workers yesterday. Siyakhuluma or siyapi. Sekunjalo Media, the court ordered Sekunjalo Media to pay 458 million back to. As we do that, we must also congratulate SAMU that all community workers program must be employed as permanent workers. Communication Workers Union, for the second time, the judgment has been ruled that the union must go back to the rightful owners. We must also congratulate SEPAU. After a very big fight for a very long time, court battles, the labor court has ruled that the administrator who has been chowing the money of workers, he must hand over the union to the rightful owners. All these victories, comrades, for workers. Please, let's report back, because people are saying, Cosatu union are useless. They're not doing anything. Let's show them, comrade, the work that we are doing on the ground. Comrade Chair, Deputy President, I'm not going to go back to what was done yesterday. Today is the outcome of the result. We are presenting the outcome of the result as follows. The name of Comrade Komoto Makupela from Nehau was elected, is elected, or she is elected by 9 unions in good standing, unopposed. Therefore, Comrade Komoto Makupela from Nehau, she is a newly elected national chairperson of the gender structure.
Komotso, ona, motho wa mona, umubona so umushebile, umubona so umushebile, umubona so umushebile, umubona so umushebile. Umubona so umushebile, umubona so umushebile, umubona so umushebile, umubona so umushebile. Await you.
Wanda.
Await.
Await two. The next person, or the next name that was nominated also by 9 affiliates in good standing, unopposed, is Lydia Makudulela from Saspo, elected as the deputy chairperson of the National Gender Structure of Cosatu.
Bayaya, bayaya, bayaya.
Allah. Allah. Thank you very much. The third name and the position of the secretary was also elected and nominated by unions in good standing for the position of the secretary is Comrade Emilia Mapakela from Sakau, and she's also nominated and elected unopposed. Allah. Amanda. The fourth name or the fourth position for the Deputy Secretary, also nominated by I keep a position here, I see in General Secretary and call you to order. Okay. The position of the Deputy Secretary was also nominated by 9 affiliates, which are in good standing, and that name is for Comrade Nkateko Munisi from Samatu, also elected unopposed. Thank you very much, Comrade. I am now, can we all get seated? You will get time to take photos. Thank you very much. We are done in terms of the announcement. These are the leadership elected by yourself. It's very important in Cosatu. What we have seen as national office bearers here today for the past 2 days is unity as we move towards building unity in the entire workers and the working class. Leadership is not about power, leadership is about responsibility. I'm now going to I will hand over this report to the Deputy General Secretary to process the IEC manager. Thank you very much. I'm handing over to the Deputy President. Thank you very much.
You have overstepped your mandate as an IEC. Thank you very much, comrades. Without a waste of time, we will hand over to the Deputy Chair to take us forward. Except that we need to correct, I have been complaining since yesterday about the surname of the chair. So that it must be corrected. It is true that some comrades were nominated by 9 affiliates, but eventually they were elected by conference, not by the 9 affiliates, elected by unanimously by the entirety of the national conference and the leadership of the conference. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Oh, Mina. Oh, I'm gender. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Amandla, awethu, wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo, wathinta imbokodo. Thank you, comrades. Without any waste of time, I'm going to call upon the secretary to come and present the conference declaration. Bala no palu zundi pale nami. Mandla, away, 2, Malibongwe. Comrades, we are going to read the declaration for the elective National Gender Conference that started on the 26th and at the 27th of March 2026, with the delegates from Cosatu affiliates, 9 provinces, and the Young Workers Forum gathered at a new OR Tambo in Johannesburg from the 26th to 27 March 2026 for the inaugural elective National Gender Conference. This is the second one. The theme for the conference was building working class unity for economic liberation towards socialism. Since the inaugural conference, we are encouraged by those of our affiliates who heed the call to establish gender structures and remain active in our programs. Thus, we applaud. It remains our call to ensure that all Cosatu affiliates will have functional and active gender structures with a clear resolve to build political and economic emancipation as would have been declared by our theme. The chairperson of the Cosatu gender structure opened the National Gender Conference situating the gathering within critical national and organizational movement. The presentation underscored the urgency of confronting gender-based violence and femicide, which was characterized as a systematic and escalating crisis disproportionately affecting working class women in South Africa. It further pushed for the repositioning of gender struggles as integral to economic justice, incorporating the ILO Convention 190 and its recommendation 206. In support addresses, global priorities were presented as economic inclusion of women, combating gender-based violence and femicide, advancing and formalizing the care economy. Further addresses highlighted ongoing challenges within the trade union structures, including persistent patriarchal practices and the limited reach of union amongst informal sector workers. It stressed that for unions to remain relevant and transformative, they must consciously broaden their base to include young workers, women, and those in vulnerable employment, while actively dismantling internal gender inequalities. The conference further stressed the importance of advancing women's empowerment through the National Democratic Revolution, calling for concrete measures to ensure equity, equality, and access to opportunity across all sectors. On programs ongoing, it was presented that there are government initiatives including the development of a national care economy strategy and South Africa's role in contributing to a proposed African Union Convention on the care economy. Congress delegates, South Africa's political conjuncture is fluid, uncertain, and contested, but it is also fertile ground for transformation. If we center gender on our analysis and our action, we can move beyond symbolic inclusion towards substantive inequality. We can build a politics that does not merely accommodate the marginalized genders, but one that is reshaped by the visions, their struggles, and their leadership. We must also understand that men's struggles are part of the broader struggle for gender justice. Gender-based violence and sexual harassment remain a challenge at our workplaces and across our society. The declaration of this as a national pandemic is proof enough that work needs to be intensified and reversing and curbing the atrocities of gender-based violence and sexual harassment. We declare to support fully initiatives of government and to ensure that funding is made available to confront the pandemic similarly to other pandemics. On gender and climate change and just transition, South Africa is a historically coal-intensive economy which faces significant climate change challenges while grappling with the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. This is the foundation for a call towards a just and equitable transition, looking to reduce emission while protecting workers and vulnerable communities. As we note and acknowledge the Cosatu Just Transition Toolkit on Gender, we declare to advance in the better positioning of issues of gender to ensure
that we ease the burden carried by the changing work environment, we reiterate our call to close the wage gap and for upskilling, skilling and reskilling in a low carbon and climate resilient economy. We call for the establishment of a relief fund to ensure adequate social protection measures to focus primarily on those who have lost their jobs due to climate change. We also call for acceleration of efficient carbon tax measures to introduce needed structural changes. We declare to further integrate just transition gender principles on collective bargaining agreements and social dialogue, ensure public, private, and international climate finance benefits workers and communities, and to prioritize gender-responsive funding, including decarbonization of mines and energy sectors with consideration of gender policies. Noting the process of labor law reform, we call for adequate labor legislation, including Employment Equity Act, Basic Conditions of Employment Act, Labor Relations Act, as a protection measure in ensuring workers are not left behind towards a just transition in the changing world of work. We must further, therefore, lobby for a just transition code of good practice at the NETLAC Labor Market Chamber. This is a core enabler of a just transition which will allow for legislation provisions on ensuring workers are protected from an unjust transition. Yeah, BBT is dealing with me. Do you understand the BBT? I'm here. On care economy and care workers' rights. To ensure that we advance inclusion of care workers, including EPWP, workers in the Minimum Wage Act, while advancing a call for a living wage. This must further application of the R5 or 5 R's principles, as we can see there, ensure that the economy becomes a key focus for collective bargaining, and to address unpaid care work to prevent women from bearing disproportionate burdens of climate adversities. Advocate for subsidization of state scholar transport to be across all forms of transportation, including community aftercare workers. Advocate for prioritization of infrastructure development in public institutions to make provision for, among others, running water and to eradicate pit toilets. On gendered collective bargaining, parental rights and maternity protection, we know the huge underrepresentation of women with collective bargaining space within the collective bargaining space, and the consequences placed women as recipients below their male counterparts. The principle of equal pay for work of equal value, especially it disguises oppression of women, remain our greatest concern. The boardroom remains a playground infested with men, while the role of women is very subjective and undermined in most instances. The conference resolved to pursue call adherence to Convention 183 on advocacy for 1,000 days for maternity and breastfeeding rights. We support the sharing of parental responsibilities while emphasizing that this required increase and expansion of parental rights without reducing or eroding existing maternity provisions. We call for strengthened social dialogue mechanism and capacitate gender champions in climate forums and all other related areas. On gender policies, implementation and organizational power, Cosatu has progressive gender policies, but implementation is weak and absent.
there's a systematic failure to translate gender policy into organizational power and real representation. Women dominate membership across a number of affiliates, but this is not reflected in leadership, especially at higher decision-making levels. Further crippling issues including the lack of budget for the gender structures and failure to embed at workplace level. On proposed resolution, we call for monitoring, mandating, reporting, and strict compliance on the 50-50 representation of women in activities and leadership structures. Establishment of gender structures at workplace, local, provincial, and national levels with dedicated budgets and clear roles with reporting lines. Build a women and LGBTQIA+ leadership pipeline, including leadership development programs, mentorship, particularly for shop steward and young people. Radical targeting of leadership positions, including deployment to bargaining institutions. On gender-based violence and sexual harassment and implementation of C-190, we say gender-based violence and femicide is entrenched and systematic in the world of work, and power relations to continue to drive violence. We declare a call for continued monitoring of gender-based violence, including establishment of trauma rooms across all sectors and expansion of the Tutuzela centers across provinces and remote villages. We declare that gender-based violence and harassment and femicide must be at the center of legislation and must be tabled as a collective bargaining issue. Ensuring prevention of victimization of complainants and whistleblowers, this includes the protection of shop stewards against those who seek to victimize them. We further call for an accelerated pace on education programs pertaining to our LGBTQIA+ community who continue to face violence and discrimination. We call for intensified awareness campaigns for community education to ensure accurate representation and democratic processes in the adoption of legislation. The declaration of a national disaster must result in full implementation of Convention 190, driven by trade unions as representatives of the working class in our society. We further hold that collective union action is key to cases being addressed and resolved. This will include prevention methods. On Occupational Health and Safety Act must be central and stronger accountability that is needed through a call for stronger sanction through our courts. Lastly, we support the development of the Cosatu National Pledge against all forms of sexual harassment at and during its structural meetings, in particular national and provincial congresses. We also reiterate our call for affiliates to adopt the sexual harassment policy. On international, the world is undergoing the most profound changes resulting from the deepening crisis of capitalism. The internationalization of oppression, exploitation, and inequalities require the simultaneous internationalization of solidarity, gender, and class struggle. It is no accident that the rise of war imperialism, violence, and conflict coincide with the rise of gender-based violence globally. Capitalism is the violent expression of gender, class, and racial oppression and exploitation, hence the increasing levels of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. This is even more urgent in the context of Africa's underdeveloped and disproportionate impact on women and children. This requires that our organizing strategies put women and girl children at the center of our programs. The future of equality is dependent on us advancing social justice decisively. Gender oppression is manifested in the way Black women in particular have become face of suffering, hunger, and injustice in the workplaces and society at large.
We are witnessing growing levels of unemployment resulting from massive retrenchments, economic stagnation, and monopolistic ownership of resources. This is even more particular with the racist and patriarchal structure of domestic and global capitalism. To this end, our struggle is international and tied to the struggle for decent work, social justice, and working class power. Towards this end, we call for internationalist, feminist, and class-conscious women movement to defeat patriarchy and gender-based violence in our country, continent, and the world. This movement shall lead women's struggles and rally all social forces around the following issues: decent work and gender equality at the workplace, economic rights, social justice, and inclusive development for all, climate justice and just transition, fully recognizing our rights as developing countries to use our national endowment for our development, fighting against the looting of mineral resources by global multinational companies, and support our sovereign development rights. Build a progressive international trade union movement that recognizes the pressing agencies of the global South Africa in particular. In conclusion, preceded by the feminist school, this conference embraced the collective strength of our international support and global community, our alliance structures and social forces in support of our struggle. We remain strengthened and sharpened to face the next phase of our journey, that empowering ourselves even more. There is consensus that there's a need for tabling constitutional amendments in line with the needs of the gender structure, this to be processed and eventually tabled at the National Congress of Cosatu in September 2026. Mandla!
Thanks, Nopala. We'll now go to the adoption of the declaration. Pope Crew, you are recognized. Cosatu, Nehau. Pope Crew.
Comrade Chairperson, thank you very much. And thank you to the new elected Nobala of Amanena. The declaration was clear. However, as POPRU, we rise with a proposal that the declaration be deferred to the NGC for better polishing. In fact, however, we don't have a problem to adopt it. It was loud and clear. Indeed, it has transpired in our sitting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Pope Crew.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. And we are rising as Clothing and Textile to join Pope Crew on congratulating you, comrades, on your election. And we also want to appreciate Comrade Gertrude, who is the National Gender Coordinator, as the engine of this structure, the one who is driving the work of gender in the Federation. But we wish you well. And on the declaration, I think we agree with Pope, the NGC, for further cleanup and then be brought back for endorsement. Thank you very much.
Comrades, we are not adopting the declaration, we are deferring it. That's my understanding. And how?
Thank you so much, Deputy Chairperson. And also, we as Nehau, we are rising to congratulate you on your new responsibility. The conference has spoken. As Nehau, we won't differ, comrade, with the two that the declaration be referred to the first meeting of the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, comrades. The declaration will now call upon the newly elected chairperson. Comrades, can we asimsukumisen ngegwiji eli strong from you? The heavy one.
Amandla. 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 Viva Cosatu, 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 viva. Viva Cosatu, 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 viva. Viva SACP, viva. Viva Sanko, viva. Viva the ANC, viva. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Comrades, let me first acknowledge National Office Bearers, our Central Executive Committee members, the SACP, SANCO, the ANC Women's League, and I stand before you, comrades, deeply humbled and honored by the confidence this second elective conference has placed in this collective leadership. We accept this responsibility not as an individual victory, but as a collective mandate. Mandate to advance the struggle for gender justice within our federation and our affiliates and also our society at large. So this conference has just not been a gathering. It has been a reaffirmation of our commitment to dismantle patriarchy and to challenge all systems that continue to oppress women and gender diverse comrades. We have engaged robustly, we have debated honestly, and we have emerged stronger and more united in purpose. The engagements and debates coming out from this committee are testimony to that. As we close this elective conference, we must be clear that the work begins now. We don't have time, processes are moving, we need to occupy the space and run in making sure that we implement the mandate of this conference. We are called upon, therefore, comrades, to build a militant, a conscious, and an organized gender structure. But one that is not symbolic, but powerful and transformative. A structure that speaks boldly against gender-based violence, a structure that fights for economic emancipation of women, a structure that challenges discrimination in our workplaces, and a structure that ensures that gender equality is not an afterthought, but a central pillar of our union work. Our program going forward must be practical in collaboration with FES, as we have already stated the work. We'll have to prioritize political education through feminist schools and ongoing webinars to conscientize our members on gender struggles. We think webinars will actually be more accommodative coming into one room, leaving members outside, but webinars will give members also an opportunity to join in and learn what feminism is all about. Take it from their comrades. So yesterday, we had 25 university students from rural areas who came to observe and experience trade union processes and learn more about trade unionism to avoid them joining the world of work and refuse to join unions because they don't have an understanding of what trade unions is all about. So they have been adopted by FES comrades. We can see the immense work that FES is actually doing in collaboration with the Federation in that regard, and we appreciate that. We further will invest in the capacitation of young women within the Federation. They are equipped to lead, to organize and occupy spaces of power within the Federation. We will have to strengthen coordination across all affiliates. Are functional comrades. They are visible, and also we must see an impact of the gender structures in our different affiliates. We must also confront reality of triple oppression, where women face the intersecting burdens of class exploitation, patriarchy, and for many, racial. Our struggle must therefore be intersectional, militant, and unapologetic. We commit to building alliances both within the broader labor movement, comrades, to advance a united front against all forms of oppression. We will ensure that gender issues are mainstreamed into collective bargaining, workplace policies, and organizational programs. And we had the conference saying they must actually be for gender. So we think that in strengthening organizational programs, there must be money allocated to gender. Let us leave this conference, comrades, with renewed. Be organizers, let us be educators and defenders of gender justice in every space we occupy. I also wish to extend my gratitude to all outgoing leaders for their contribution and to every delegate who participated with discipline and commitment. Your voices have shaped the direction we now take, and Cosatu also want to take this opportunity, comrades, as the structure to our partners who made this work possible, which is FES, Naledi. They always are assisting in making sure that we have work that is well researched, and we also have documents to engage on. We also like to thank LRS, and more importantly, we would like to thank and appreciate all our comrades. Let us remember, we do not organize for positions. We organize for transformation. The task ahead is great, but together we are equal to the task. We as the Federation, comrade, we have her story, Cosatu. Comrades, every time when it's Women's Month, we talk about the 1956 women, which is a very good thing. They have laid the. But it is very, very important, comrades, that as the Federation, we talk about the women who led and who made the Federation to be where it is today. We cannot be forgetting about their sacrifices, yet they have made lots and lots of sacrifices. Her story is the beginning, and I think we should actually run in understanding what challenges and difficulties these women actually endured up to where we are today, so that we are then able to aid comrades. We also want to, thank the gender coordinator of the Federation. Your work is not artist. including all the departments within the Federation. You are always available to assist when, organizing service center shouts, and we really appreciate that you always come forward. I actually won't be doing justice, comrades, before I sit down. Thank our textile union. We look beautiful today. It is because of yourself. We wouldn't be having this conference today, comrades, sitting here, if it was not FES. And we want for that. And with that, comrades, we would like to say the work has begun. We will meet at the next NGC, which must actually take place sooner because we have unfinished business. There's some work that has been deferred, and we need to make sure that we convene as soon as possible to conclude the work of the conference.